Hello everyone, welcome to the PathForward podcast. Before the show starts, I would like to share a few words. When I first started to research for this podcast project, I have talked to many young people. And many young people felt they're very unsure about their financial future. Because of that, I have decided to dedicate the next 4 episodes to discuss different aspects of money and finance. And since money can be a sensitive and complex topic, I want to share a quick disclaimer. The views expressed in this episode are for educational and discussion purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. Everyone's situation is different, so listeners should always do their own research and consult a qualified professional before making any major financial decisions. Thanks again for listening and being part of this community.
You feel the struggle, right? Like going to the supermarket, to seeing your blueberries going up. That's crazy, right?
That's true.
Yeah. It's tough. I think understanding what you can afford and not understand. No, honestly, and it might sound like it's a basic concept, but that understanding of what is it that you can and cannot do, it's important. You see when people are struggling that somehow people rise up and try to help each other. Looking at my parents, I would say that if you are orderly, disciplined, and if you try, there will be a way.
Hello everyone, today we're very excited to have Francisco Guevara with us. He is currently an operation director at Waterfront Shipping. He also holds a CPA and an economic degree. Francisco, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks to be here. You grew up in El Salvador. When I was researching for this episode, I was fascinated by its history. Since the arrival of European, I think it's a long power struggle for El Salvador. There was tension between the peasant and oligarchy. There was regular coup d'etat in the first 20th century and dictatorship as well, and eventually a civil war. How would you describe the time when you were born, the political and economical background at the time that you were born?
So when I was born, there was the start of the Civil War. And what happened is repeating history, which was every time that somebody got into power, they would not like to give it back in a democratic way. And what it will happen is typically you will find ways to keep it up. For example, there will be these quasi-elections, there will be a bunch of fraud. And not only that, you will have alliances with parts of the military, parts of the generals, etc. So at the time when I was born, I believe that there was no president, but there was a board of people in the military who appointed someone.
Okay.
And there were different, a lot of events happening that were quite, I would say, frustrating for people who wanted democracy or who wanted a change in terms of who had the power and who had the means to produce in the country. So repeating story from what you're saying since I'm going to say the beginning, the inception of the country.
Yeah.
It was the same but exacerbated because it has been so many times where people have tried to bring back democracy or being able to have more equity in terms of opportunities.
But one thing I find it very fascinating is, unlike most South American country, socialism actually didn't take hold of El Salvador. They didn't succeed.
That's correct.
I really wonder though, as you grew up in Salvador, what do you think is the reason? Is it by chance or there's something special about the people?
I felt that even though there was a huge movement, Latin America, and I would say, not different from everyone in Latin America, it's just that the opposition or the organization of the people who were in power, and I would say the families who control all the money, let's say, it was so strong that whoever was trying to impose socialism found a huge resistance.
Oh, really?
Even the Civil War was very tough, but there was no way to break into that level of government or level of power just to control. So no, it didn't happen that way. Yeah, but it's interesting. One of the few countries that didn't never go to the other side.
I was very surprised. The reason is because the peasant was really suppressed.
Exactly.
By the rich people, right?
So the differential of power and differential of means was so large, and the alliances, the imbalance of power was so big that it didn't have a chance. Although I must say, there was some stuff that was socialist, like I don't know if you know this, but there was this reform where if you had more than X, I would say, acres of land, there would be a portion of that that would be taken away from you and given to some people, like for agriculture.
Yeah.
But even in that, they will touch you if you were not connected to the government.
Okay.
So
that's exception. That's always exception.
Yeah.
But in your eyes, though, how was life in El Salvador was like growing up?
Sure. I feel like once you are there, even though there is some violence, it's not like every day you're gonna see something, but you do see stuff. But it wasn't every day. I grew up playing on the street, playing with friends, and not being too worried about what's going on. But you do have, like, I have memories of, for example, one time we're playing and suddenly a few people in the army comes and they say, hey guys, you should go home. And then you go home, and then I grew up in a place where it was hilly, so it was a mountain. So there was one side that was in camp in that mountain, and then you would see in the night some shooting on top of your house. So your house is here, the mountain is there, and then you would see shooting back and forth. That was one of those days I said, hey, you should go home. So we went home. It got dark, and then that started. So you see that type of stuff.
Okay.
But it's not like every day you would see it. But for example, that happened. A couple of days you're still careful, and then you start to bug your mom and that, hey, I really want to go out. And then you go out. Yeah.
And they will let you.
And they will. Because they have to go to work too. They have to continue. Life has to continue.
So life is just kind of usual? Would you say it's normal even the civil war is going on?
Because a lot of the time, what was happening was, I would say, localizing some neighborhoods, localizing some cities, and you will hear of something that was pretty bad, but it didn't touch you. Sometimes when you went to visit relatives in another city, you might see some stuff. But at the end of the day, 89 was a bit of a different story. That was when the whole opposition, they really organized themselves, and there was a week or a little bit longer where there was attack everywhere. And also the military took advantage of that to attack other people who were against them, even philosophically, maybe not with weapons, but with thought and with speech. And that time, for that time, there was a week or two or maybe a little bit more where you were in it was a different ball game. It was more like you would hear stuff that are more intense. There would be a bit more fear at that time.
But gang is also a problem.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But it wasn't like... I think part of the reason is because they go through a lot of kind of upheaval, and like coup d'etat, and I think those people just left around and become gang or whatever.
I think you're right.
Really?
I think
that's what I kind of guess. But it did not bother you, or like...
So you went from... When people think about peace, yay, the war is over... It's not that simple, right? Like there will be people who all that they learn in their life was to pick up a gun and do stuff, right? So you will have people that you were not able to really educate. There was not those plans. Oh no, we're gonna educate these people. We're gonna find them job opportunities. Because right after the war, there was good economic growth because you had to rebuild the stuff that was destroyed. So good economic growth, but at some point you started to see there's no more opportunities, this is it. And poverty was not solved. At the end of the day, all that was solved is that some people had to say, okay, no, we're releasing our weapons and we're releasing the way we're trying to do things. And they became a political party. But a bunch of people didn't know what to do. And what they knew is violence. And there was still that resentment. And with that resentment, honestly, gangs started. So if you did not have power, if you saw that there was nothing changing, and you have the people who have the money exactly almost in the same position, there was this resentment plus organization. And a lot of people who migrated to the United States or other places, especially in the United States, they started to learn the gang way. They were deported and they imported that into our country. So all of that combined, that started the gangs. And yes, so we had to go through that growing up. I would say the war, I was very young, but in the second half, yeah, you will have to grow up with that. It wasn't like in the neighborhood I live, it wasn't that palpable, but it wasn't not present. Like for example, I remember one time we were playing basketball on the street. Really, we had a hoop there. And somebody came. He was obviously from a gang trying to recruit people. And this was a nice guy still, because all he did is he sat down, went down, he showed us a big knife, and he said, "Okay, I need your shoes." There is a slang for that, and he gave me the slang, and I say, "Okay." Yeah. So we exchanged shoes, and from there we just ran, and he didn't chase us, and yeah. But you will face stuff like that. Small in my neighborhood, in other neighborhoods, what's crazy, right? Like you are part of the gang, we wanna beat you, and if you survive, you're part of the gang, but you cannot get out. You are in trouble. It's very tough. It was very tough.
But you know where is the neighborhood that you should not go, basically. You have clear idea.
The police knew that they cannot go to that neighborhood. So it was that.
It was that bad.
It was that bad. Yeah.
Ooh, oh my. But with all of this thing in mind, like the life in El Salvador, there's like civil war you live through, and there's some gang problem as well. But at the same time, though, your family seemed like a very normal life, actually. So how would you describe your family? Would you say they're like a family, like a middle class?
Yes, absolutely. We were blessed that both my mom and my dad were very organized. My dad had very good education, and my mom was really disciplined too, and very, very good at their job. So they both had good jobs. When I think about their upbringing, and even when I was born, we don't come from a family of money or anything. Like my dad, his family lost pretty much everything, and he was in university at the time. So he is from a smaller town, and he had to come to the capital city for university. At some point, he lost everything, and he had no place to go. But he had some friends and people who supported him. But what he had, and I admire of him, is he was very smart, a very smart man, and he worked hard, and he had a very good job at some point in his career. But it's not like he had money since the beginning. And the same with my mom. My mom comes from an even smaller place, and the family had issues. So a lot of her family had to emigrate. So a lot of them in the United States. She stayed. She met my dad, and they stayed. And she didn't have a lot of education, but I think she's very smart, and she worked for a bank. So both financial institutions, both good jobs, and they were able to give us a very good life. Like we were not in a, I would say it's a safe neighborhood, but not a luxurious neighborhood. We had internet, we had access to cable, we had that stuff. We would not travel, but we would have a vacation locally. I always felt that we had everything we needed, and we were comfortable. Like we were not suffering that what are we gonna eat tomorrow? No, never like that. There was saving. They had a modest car, but good. I felt middle class, and I'm pretty sure that not a lot of people in my time could say that back home.
Oh wow! So you live in Salvador, right? Like the capital.
Yeah.
Then how would you describe the socioeconomic class in the time when you were growing up? Sure. There would be different class, I would think.
Sure, yeah. So you had a majority of people who, you know, but let's talk minimum wage, and even minimum wage is relative. A minimum wage there versus here is quite different. But let's say a lot of people who have no job or make less than minimum wage, there is, I would say, a little bit more now, but I would say a larger proportion of people who will have something maybe a little bit above minimum wage, and they have a formal job. But the majority would be informal, minimum wage or less. And then you will have very little people who has incredible money. Like incredible money, when I say, is you go and travel and have your kids in the United States, you shop on a weekend in Miami, you will have that, and that they own a lot. Like they will own the shopping malls, banks, car dealerships. Yeah. So there you have this. They call it, and I don't know if it's factual or not, it's 12 families at some point. I think it's different now, but 12 families that control pretty much everything. 12 families.
Really? Banks?
Yeah, 12 families. Bank, everything. You have the people who had the blessing of being related or connected, and then you have people who had education or good jobs, and then everyone else.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think it's still kind of ring true, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But with all the thing into consideration, what is the biggest lesson you have learned growing up, in Salvador? What's the biggest thing you have learned?
I think that that's a good question. Growing up there, what I appreciate is that you see when people are struggling, that somehow people rise up and try to help each other. I know that a lot of my culture, and I don't understand why now that I see it, there was a bit of that, let's survive, and therefore you would take advantage even of your own peer. So that's part of it. But I noticed that, for example, among families, even among friends, you would try to stick together and try to help each other when the times are tough. I think one lesson I see is that when people are going to tough times, those are times when people tends to actually, I feel positive about humankind is what I'm trying to say, that you tend to help each other and try. And another lesson was looking at my parents. I would say that if you are orderly, disciplined, and if you try, there will be a way. There will be a way. So something that I learned more maybe from my parents, from growing up there, I guess what I described.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Then before becoming an accountant, you study economics in university at El Salvador. Why you choose economics?
Partly, my dad was an economist, and he went into finance. I always thought fascinated the way we would talk, like maybe after dinner, or even culturally, this is something very interesting. People talk politics a lot. In economics and politics, they go hand in hand, right?
Okay.
So I found it fascinating, and I found it interesting to learn and to understand what we're talking about here.
Okay.
So I thought that was intellectually very interesting.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about job opportunities or anything like that at that time. I think the accounting was that switch, but I would say it was more interesting, something that my dad had done before, and that I thought I could relate to him too, and also the discussion overall with people that you understand what they're trying to say, or put a good judgment to it.
So can you give me an example of what kind of thing he would say to you in the dinner table when he's talking about economics?
So things that I remember would be how people would describe an economic problem, like for example back home, and how easy it is to construct a solution that is very populist or very impractical, and to advance something like that to people and people to believe it, versus him saying, okay, is this possible? Like I'm thinking about how do we generate value? How do we build this GDP, let's say? And then if you hear about what are the options that someone is saying, is this realistic really versus what you have as a capabilities of a country? So stuff like that. He would say the distribution of wealth, that's a big topic in our country, and will always be. So that distribution of wealth is something also interesting that he would discuss. Those two I remember.
How old were you when he discussed this?
He started talking to me very early, and you're exposed again because of the environment. You're exposed to all of these topics very early. I remember being less than 10 years old and hearing this stuff.
Really? You already talking about
It's there. Like people watches interviews,
Yeah.
political interviews, morning, noon, and night. And now that you have like in the past it was just like regular networks.
Yeah.
Now you have
24
YouTube.
hours.
And you can find everything you want. But there's just discussion about that. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. So like quite often.
Yeah.
But for you though, what do you find is intellectually fascinating? I guess at the age that you begin to understand, what do you find is so fascinating about it?
What I found after I finished is that it gives you a great framework to analyze. I wouldn't say just problems, but situations. It gives you a good primer to understand, and you take back what people is saying and just bring it back to maybe some sort of a concept, a model. So that was very fascinating, that no matter what you go into, if it's finance, if it's accounting, even if it is operations, you can start looking at things and take a step back and say, okay, well, that is a concept that I understand, and based on that understanding I can tackle it, or I can learn it faster by having that framework.
At JW's Music Studio, we offer more than just music lessons. We also nurture future leaders in music education. Our piano teacher apprenticeship program is an initiative designed for advanced piano students who are ready to take the next step from student to teacher. This program provides a structured, supportive pathway into music teaching. Participants are mentored through every stage, from interview and training to guided teaching and independent lessons, all while being compensated as they grow. Whether your teen is exploring a career in teaching or simply wants to deepen their connection to music, this program offers real-world skills in a safe, encouraging environment. Contact us today at jnwmusic@yahoo.ca.
Okay, so it's also very practical in a sense. I think let's hold on that question first. But from your conversation though, I also find fascinating because in the current time or in the recent decade, I look at El Salvador. It seems to be they are very free market oriented.
Yes.
I'm surprised that you would talk about like distribution of wealth.
Of course, because I think that's more the. You know how you have these ideals, so people have that ideal, but practically it doesn't happen. and it is a free market. It's very entrepreneurial when you go there. It's fascinating to see how people are so resourceful and how businesses are. Like, I don't know how they survive, but it's so competitive. It's so like you will have. It's funny. I was talking to my family one time. We went and said, "Do you see how many ads are here?" So you go on the street, and the streets are plastered with ads for services, restaurants, everything, and people try to find what is the extra value that I can give versus someone else. It's fascinating, very entrepreneurial, but it's because based on need, right? Like if you are not a restaurant that is really promoting themselves, know what the people want, etc., or you're not located in the right place, it's tough. It's tough.
You're not going to survive, basically.
Yeah, you need to survive. So that very entrepreneurial. So it is a market-based, like capitalism place with the ideals of something different. But I think that is dying more and more after the war, and now that it has been a few more years after that. And also based on what we see in the new, I would say the new political order, it's different. It's different.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just like kind of surprised me actually.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what did you learn from economic? And like what you said, obviously, sounded like economic to you. It's a lot of economic principle you can apply to life. Can you give me some example?
Sure. So I would say, like, for example, how how you allocate your money, how you allocate what you earn. So what you earn, the basics of economics is everything is resources that are not forever or not unlimited. There are limited resources. So how do you allocate that? That's the principle of economics, why it started, right? So think about your own life and say you make money. You understand what is it that gives you the more satisfaction or utility. So marginal utility, what is that thing that where you want to allocate your money to? Supply and demand, like understanding when to make a decision in terms of maybe buying something. Those diminishing returns when you are doing something too much, like for example, like in my personal life, clothes are not a thing that that gives me so much satisfaction, so I don't put a lot of my money there. But for example, do I like to go out and have a meal from time to time? I rather have that experience that gives me more satisfaction. But I know at some point, if I am only doing that, I know limited resources.
Yeah.
I know my marginal utility, so my satisfaction will go down. So that type of stuff, I find it pretty cool, and I can relate to those concepts.
So the concept of diminishing return, basically, that's what you're
correct
saying. Also, the diminishing marginal utility, that was also another concept. Right. Okay, then when you move to Canada, do you think studying economic and your experience in El Salvador is useful for the life in Canada?
It is. I think, first of all, it's different to see where you come from a place where the resources are much less to when you start to see what's possible. And when you start here and you have that background, then it makes you really appreciate and work hard to have a good living here. So I think one thing that is helpful is being from El Salvador and coming here is you work hard, you don't stop that, you understand that it is a blessing and that you have to take care of it. You don't take it for granted. So one thing definitely. And the second one from economics is and in general, it helped me to even look at other careers or other type of studies and feel I didn't feel overwhelmed. It was hard, but I didn't feel overwhelmed because what I had was something that I could apply and a lot of the time relatable and I was able to apply and I guess finalize those studies that way.
Okay. But in a personal finance way, I think you explained a little bit, what you can afford and what you cannot afford. Is there anything more that, you kind of find it is useful in a personal finance way for yourself?
I think when you understand concepts, many, but something that comes to me, especially because of that background from El Salvador and politics, is understanding even when you're going to vote. What is people saying that they're going to do? Is it possible? Is it achievable? Does it go with your values? Does it go with what you see in life? Does it make sense to you? So that's one piece, definitely. Another one I can think of is debt. So what are you investing? Is this something that is this productive debt? Is this not productive debt? Not to get too much into it, and I feel like not everyone needs to, but behavioral economics, understanding negotiation, or how people will react. That concept of the rational, I don't know, buyer, seller. There is many concepts, but I would say practical for your life is understanding what people who are going to be in power or even your bosses are saying, and you being critical and say, does this make sense or not? And how you are going to invest your money and put your money where it makes sense.
Irrational exuberance, right? Who said that? I forgot.
I don't recall.
But anyway, just like showing that a lot of times, people make financial decisions not out of logic.
No,
it's not always rational.
The rational, I believe that's more a construct of economics or of academia that doesn't exist.
No, it's not. I don't think that is the case. But why you choose accounting though when you arrive in Canada? You have the OCMA, and then now it becomes CPA right? So why you choose accounting?
remember when I said that back home I studied economics more from my heart? This one was more from my head, saying I evaluate it.
Yeah.
And I have to thank someone in SFU. I don't remember the name, but it's one of those advisors.
Yeah.
I was trying to get into a master's of economics.
Okay.
And she said it very practically, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
But why not studying also another career where there are other prospects too? And then if at some point you feel I'm still in love with this economics, then you go ahead and do it. and resonate and say, yeah. And I started to think about job opportunities, accounting, even though, yes, when you have different economic cycles, you might be impacted. The reality is that everyone needs an accountant at some point. And I thought that provided good security as a job, let's say. So knowing that I think there will be a market for this qualification in the future. So that's why it was more like that security. And also, there are very interesting, I know a lot of people think accounting, oh my gosh, that's boring, but there are good parts of accounting that feel more like a mix between a lawyer and a consultant versus the accounting that you think about an accounting cycle doing the same thing all the time. No, there are other pieces like interpreting what your accounting rules are saying, or how to, I don't know, establish a structure, an organization such that you have certain advantages, like tax planning, not in a bad way, but in a good ethical tax planning, or even what are you producing? Just those type of decisions in terms of what's giving you the best margin for what you're producing. I think all of that it's fascinating, but honestly, it was job security.
But it's more close to economic, actually. The thing that some of the area you talk about is like kind of close to economic too, right? In a sense, a little bit. I guess it's like economic, but in a practical way.
I
right?
think you go into the micro, because when you think about a central bank, when you think about
not the macroeconomic.
It's different, but at the same time you do have a balance sheet. Let's say it's different, right? But you do have a balance sheet. You do have well, it's not called anymore balance sheet, but let's say a balance sheet. You do have similar principles. I would say so.
But you're not a general accountant. I think let's make it be clear. That's not what you study. That's the thing. You're not the person who do like file for taxes or like writing financial like statement or things like that. So what area of accounting did you focus on, or do you focus on at this point actually?
Yeah. So my studies on what used to be called management accounting, and they call it also cost accounting. So think about cost accounting would be something like when you think about a process. This is the old way, but I'll explain it that way. So you have an industrial process and you are producing goods, and then you have to assign cost to those goods, and there are different rules and different ways of how you're going to assign that, and you're going to put it in different buckets, like finished goods, goods that are still in transit, etc. So that type of accounting, but also the one that I study look at future cash flows, budgeting, forecasting. So that's more the area of accounting that I study. But I was really blessed to work for the company that I still work now for the shipping side of that company. But in the company I work, I was exposed to cycle accounting. The budgeting and forecasting was more the stuff that I study. I did also financial statements, disclosure notes. So I was exposed, and even a little bit to tax stuff.
It's like a lawyer, like what you said.
That's
like
stuff, but exposed to a bunch. So I was blessed that way. But no, my area was more budgeting, forecasting, cash flow, maybe a little bit of the cost accounting.
So you do the right forecast model too, I guess.
I used to be okay at it.
Yeah. But like counting the margin of like product and things like that, definitely is in it. Now, since you have an econ background, so you have some understanding of our monetary system, which is like the macroeconomic that you were talking about, like we were mentioning a little bit. For example, things like fiat currency, or like what is a fiat currency? What is the job of a central bank? Do you think it is important to have some understanding of our monetary system as a commoner?
I believe there are principles that are important to have an understanding. I don't think you have to be an expert on this type of concept, but knowing what gives value to a currency is something that it would be great if you know it. Knowing what the principles of supply and demand and how they impact your life in terms of the things that you buy or what you want to invest in, absolutely. Understanding how a country does well or not, because at the end of the day, going back to that concept of fiat versus what used to be a gold standard or a gold backup, it's important because you understand now that a country who backs up your currency, so if something is going on, you understand and you can make decisions of what you want to do about maybe if you are investing or to your investments are to focus on one particular economy, just as a concept. But in general, I think supply demand, everyone is going to be impacted by that. So knowing a little bit of that and understanding, because you're going to vote, you're going to have to make decisions on government. There are many areas what are more ethical values, what you value, etc., and how you align with that. But also, what is this person saying that they're going to do, and is that impact you or not? And that's the role of central banks, or what they see, how they're going to impact the economy.
So which part of the area, of course, like what you say, you don't need to be an expert, but what role of the central bank that they do, you think we have to pay attention a little bit?
So very recent inflation and understanding what they can and cannot do, and what generates that. Like when we had the whole COVID piece, I think everyone knows it, but in general, like COVID happens, people get these incentives to keep the economy running. That means the printing of money. That means the money is more available, let's say, and therefore that means that people are going to consume more because you cannot travel. Then you're going to consume more. That created all this issue with inflation, right? So you have more money, you have the same amount of goods or less. There was a crunch of supply chain, so boom, there is an inflation. And then you feel the struggle, right? Like going to the supermarket, seeing your blueberries going up. That's crazy, right?
That's true.
It's tough, and you experience it, and then it's, while you might not have a lot of leverage on how to solve it, you can understand what is going to come. You understand what is going to come, and then you can make adjustments to your life based on that. You knew that the reason why they're going to go up, they're going to use one of the leverage, which is increasing interest, is for you to spend less because now your debt is it's more costly. And I know there is more stuff around it, but having that understanding helps you to be, I understand the frustration will be there and etc., but you have a tool to say, if this is going to happen, maybe I need to work now on reducing my debt. Maybe I need to slow down on my spending, even though everyone is doing the opposite. Maybe I have to do that. And on the other side, on the flip side, now would be a time that maybe interest rates went up. Wow, if I am risk averse, I can put money into GIC, which will be a very high interest rate, and I get it for a period of time, and I'm gonna take advantage of this situation. I think that is important. And I have to say, but you have to also be disciplined with those concepts and how you apply them, because I feel like I know them, but I not always apply them, because you have to be disciplined to not just know it, but
so come back to its behavior, right? It's behavior. Your behavior, you have to control your behavior at the end of the day. But I think one of the things was very surprising, or not that surprising, I guess everyone can see in the foresight, is the bond market was totally decimated. It was like moved at for 30 years, it's never moved, and all of a sudden the bond price come down a lot because they increase interest rate.
Increase rates, so therefore your bond that you used to have doesn't have the value that
I know
the new bond will have.
So a lot of people were surprised, or I don't know, but I guess some people kind of see through it. But anyway, that is totally different topic altogether. But since we're talking about value as well, So what is money? Is money equal to value?
I think money has value in the sense of what you can acquire with it. So that's what I would say today on
Like
it.
the purchasing power.
The purchasing power, yeah. Because if, yeah, the value of $1 is what you can really purchase with it.
Yeah.
In different countries, that would be a different value.
Yeah.
So having $1 million in a place versus another is very different, right?
Yeah.
So what is it that you can acquire with it? So the way I would describe it is it's a measure of value and something that you can express that value, like that's how you express the value of what you can, I would say, acquire, or what that means in terms of your purchase power. And also it's at the end of the day, not at the end of the day, but in its basic form is just how you transact, right? So it's just, you are not transacting apples for oranges because I grow them, just that basic concept, but it's just a way to transact. I feel that cash, or that number that you have in the bank, you have to be careful how you consider that value, because it's only value in reference to what can you do with it.
Yeah, and it changes all the time because of inflation,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Or the other way,
Yes.
or deflation.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but that's a very important point that sometimes people kind of forget, right? You think $1 million is $1 million, but that's not true, right?
Exactly. So, and when you think about it, like, can you buy a house in a particular place with $1 million?
Yeah.
The answer would be yes in some places. The answer would be
So
no in
some other
places.
places. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by JW Music Studio. We offer piano and guitar lesson in both group and private setting. Group lesson is a great way to ignite a student's musical interest. It offers engaging activities that will reinforce specific skill sets. Ensemble playing will strengthen their rhythmic feeling and listening abilities. Most of all, they will experience the joy of making music with others. Contact us to find out our available schedule.
And I think the other concept to me is important is why the bank give you interest rate at time is because they want your money to keep the value, right? So like kind of catch up with the inflation and things like that. I think we have to keep in mind that. Now you have lived through a different time period, different countries, and different political and economical climate. In your opinion, you also have children yourself, you have a daughter. Why many young people worry about their financial future?
I see it in two ways, but it depends on the location. But talking about Vancouver,
Yeah, let's say
talking
talk about
where
in
we
Canada,
are,
yeah, Vancouver.
I feel like you start to see, especially when you start to be kind of in that high school time, or even going into university and thinking about life in general. I see, like, going back to that concept of what can you get with what you will be earning, let's say. And you see that, for example, the concept of housing, and what is it that it costs to have a place where you feel comfortable, you feel good about living. And I think that's difficult, right? So being able to afford that at this time, it can be difficult, it can be tough. I've been seeing more and more that it's not that easy to get a job these days. Like, you're coming out of school and it's not that evident that it's there. Mind you that at some point it feels like, because of this retirement, I would say, trend that is going to happen with a bunch of people who are aging, and now we're aging in more number. There has been, I think there was a generational change, and therefore there might be opportunities, but I don't know if they're seeing them right now. And there are other mentalities, like they have seen maybe people with different values or different drives, that at some point in time it was a lot about work. I see more that balance, that people wants to have a balance of, hey, I want to do the things that fill my soul and also work. But there is a reality of how can you afford that, right? So I feel like it's a combination of that. Yeah.
But what practical action a young person can take for peace of mind, perhaps, in their financial future, in your opinion?
First of all, education, and I'm not saying just education, university. I'm saying education of what is practical in life is important, like what we're talking about. So knowing, being literate about this type of concept, knowing how to take care of yourself, like even do you know how to cook? Do you know how to balance it? No, seriously.
It's true.
I feel like, and when I think about this concept, this is part of that basic knowledge, and building that knowledge is going to help you. I think education in general, no matter what it is, if it's for trades, which in my opinion in a few years is going to be fantastic, because there will be a lack of people who will be able to do them. So trades, any career, like education that edifies you, and you have a good investment. That when I think about the investments in life, education is one of the best ones that you can have. Not everyone is going to be able to easily put a YouTube channel or be it's not that simple to do that. But I feel education in the end run, at the end of the day, is going to allow you to have an income slightly higher, and therefore if you put that into all your life, definitely it's one of your best investments that you're going to do. So I think education, I think also understanding what is it that you can afford and not, and even looking at where you live. It's Vancouver, a great place, but is it more affordable in another place? And it's equally okay. Or yes, you will have to deal with different issues, but at the same time, this is a place where you can live a life that is more comfortable, that you can do the stuff that feed your soul, and also it's practical to live. So where do you live? Those type of thought, I think it's important.
Yeah. So look beyond a little bit. Right?
Look beyond, exactly.
Don't
not
just
like
look
now,
at like where you
beyond.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also what you know, I guess.
Yes.
Well, actually, at an Intuit survey done in around 2024 say that 73% of Canadian high schoolers are aware they lack the knowledge to make informed financial decisions. You're an accountant, so, well, you were an accountant and you still hold a CPA. What financial knowledge do you think is important for everyone to know?
Sorry to repeat myself, but what can you afford and what you cannot afford? It's really critical, and also to understand how you can afford more or less. Those realities are important. I think the importance of
But that's not budgeting though. So you're saying like what you can afford and what you're not. Like that's not the same thing.
It's partly budget. I would say it's a better word how you're describing it. It's budgeting. How do you what are you budgeting compare also to what are you aspiring? Because one thing is, for example, if I'm studying college and I'm I have to pay a tuition and I have a job on the side, of course today it's very different that versus when you start to look at what's coming in the future. So I think it's that pairing of that. But yes, kind of budget, debt, what it means to carry a debt, what is the plan for you to manage that debt, and in what areas it makes sense to have debt. Like for example, if you're buying a real estate typically could be, some people say no, but could be a good investment. Let's assume for a second it is, versus the debt of a car, which is a depreciating versus appreciating assets. How are you going to allocate that debt? Budgeting, and I think that's pretty key, budgeting and how you get into issues, because debt is something that if it's not managed well, that can be a real challenge. Right?
Since we're on the topic of debt, and actually that's exactly what I want to ask you. So in your opinion, definitely we should learn and understand a little bit more about credit and debt. So should we go one step further and say we should have an understanding of different lending product the financial institution is offering you? For example, it is as simple as it is the line of credit versus mortgage. Should we have some understanding of that?
I think so. That's very key, especially when you start life and trying to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And also to understand what is your risk comfort on those, right? What is reality, what is your risk comfort, like for example what you're describing, that a line of credit versus a mortgage, and what are the different interest rates are you going to be paying for the two, how do they work, how do I pay out, what is that minimum payment, and what does that mean really in my capability to pay that in the future, the accrual of interest. I think those are concepts that are very, very important. And I do believe that it's not out there in terms of the understanding. I think when you go and talk to even financial planners, or there is people who can help with that. But what I would say is important is that you understand, and not to be shy to not understand what you're getting into. There are times when we don't understand something, or we want to be very quick into a decision. We just don't want to kind of get into that detail or weeds. But I think it's very important that you understand what is it that you're getting into. And are you comfortable? Are you going to be able to sleep at night? Is it something that is going to give you worry? And how can you pay this off? And what are the alternatives that you have if there is a challenge within the time just to pay that debt?
Because I think that's a long discussion between like variable rate and fixed rate on the mortgage. I think that's that kind of concept for sure.
Absolutely. And what are you comfortable with? Like for example, I'm a very risk averse person, and I'm honest with that. But there were times when a variable felt better. And I didn't jump in. And did I lose some value? Yes, but did I lose sleep? No. And that's very important.
Yeah,
right?
that's
very important because at the end of the day, it's not. Sometimes, and I don't know in what circles, but sometimes people see other people making a lot of money, like in the stock market, and suddenly you see that you're not making as much because of your decisions. You're still making money.
Just not as much.
The other problem is the challenge if you are not, and if you are in a position where you have issues. So it's I think financial planners have these tools very well laid out, that they say, okay, questions to check where you are in the risk aversion spectrum, and what the different type of debt or decisions mean for you.
And since we're still on this topic, can you expand a little bit? I know we talked about that a little bit already. What is a good situation to use debt, and what is a bad situation to use debt?
I think good is a little bit harder, but we can go. But bad definitely is if it's for your discretionary spending. So if you're getting debt to buy a lot of clothes, or for going in vacations, etc., I would say to an extent it could be okay, but in general, if that's your all the time, that's what you do, I think that's not productive. What you're doing is you are putting yourself. What it means is that what you are getting is maybe something that you cannot afford. And I understand that you have to save to get it, and sometimes it's not that easy. But if it's something that you do measure, I would say okay. But is it in a big scheme of things of should I get into debt to get all of this stuff? I would say no. Discretionary, probably not the best place. Assets that appreciate, I would say, is something that would be, in my opinion, good. Or something that you want to commit fully all your cash, but you know that you have the means to pay that debt for a good period of time. So a car, I mean, not everyone is going to have, sure, I'm going to put 50,000 of my cash, great, done. No. But if you measure what is that interest rate, you measure what is your capability to pay, you say, okay, fine, I will do it this way. Ideally, and I know it's hard, but ideally is everything that depreciates or everything that it doesn't build value, you should not do it with debt.
Can you give a few examples what builds value though? I know not always true, like there's no guarantee in this world, but in a very simple sense, what is things that appreciate?
And with caveat, I say, but it seems like typically real estate is something that appreciates in value. So if it's going to be your home, and especially if you're going to be your home that you're going to be there for some time, I would say makes sense. Investment, that it starts to be your risk aversion where you are there, right? So some investments, like if it's also real estate, but it's an investment, not just your home, you have to think about what is your risk what is it that you think you think you are, in terms of, are you going to be comfortable if things go a little bit sour and then you have to deal with the consequences. But the good thing about an appreciating value asset is that you can sell that place, and you might be in a position that you can manage what has happened in terms of the consequences of that. So that's one. There will be business. So if you have a small business and you want to start a small business, it's for working capital, and even to start up, you need that most likely. Or you need someone who's going to be an investor to help you, and typically that has some strings in terms of either interest or, I don't know, some sort of a dividend, I don't know, whatever
Condition,
that is,
anyway.
condition, so that is good. I mean, that is not bad. I mean, if you have a good idea, you feel that you have the capabilities, the skills, a good plan, and that's where you want to get. Absolutely, I think that's very productive debt. Those two is what I can think of. I don't like to talk about stock market or something else on that. But I would say
let's avoid that.
Those two, yeah.
But one of the things I'm interested to ask you is, then what do you see education? Do you think that is something that...
Oh, good point. Yes, I believe so. The challenge with education is how much debt you're gonna get into. I had to go into debt for education, going from Salvador to here. It was a big jump in terms of what it means to come and study. It was very expensive. So I had to take a loan back home. And the good thing was that it was a loan that had a lower interest rate because it was for education. And again, I was blessed that my mom and my dad had jobs that they were the guarantors, let's say. Great debt. For me, thank God it was great debt, in the sense of we were able to soon find a job and start to pay off the debt, and then it was quick. If you have a full, I would say a full university program and you go through that, you still have to evaluate how much you can actually take on. But in general, I would say I would consider that a positive debt, like a debt that builds value. Okay.
Let's end this podcast with this question. Money, in a sense, is your job for a long time, perhaps still is actually. What do you think is a healthy relationship with money?
There is this Bible say that says, where your treasure is, your heart is also. I think your spending and where money goes should reflect that. So I don't think the accumulation of stuff or the accumulation of a lot of wealth is something that at the end gives satisfaction. I think what you have to do is you have to, it's funny, I'm going to call it investment, but you have to invest also on those things that touch your heart. And if you can, and I feel everyone can even a little bit, is to put your money and put it on stuff that build your soul. Like if you can afford a vacation or something like that, great, do it. But at the same time, what are needs that are around me, or whatever background you have in terms of country or even around you, etc., that you see that are worthy or call your heart, and then put the money there. I think you have to balance it. I don't think that wealth accumulation or just money for the sake of, I think that's an empty pursuit. What I think is really important is if you have that balance where, yes, you can enjoy that blessing of the fruit of your work, but also how do you invest that in your community, in maybe your faith, or in areas where you feel you're touched, like is it elders, is it kids, is it, I don't know what it could be, but I think that's really important, that your money you issue in a way that gives you the best marginal utility in that. And even that, believe me, I mean, it's that blessing of giving and being able to do so. I think that's important.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Wow. Thanks so much, Francisco.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, thanks so much to share a lot of wisdom and I think a lot of useful information. Yeah, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.